So I think with the three of us, we'll begin the process. We'll go through just what MCP is. We can ask questions. This is kind of a live coding session where we are all, the three of us, learning about this thing called MCP. So if you have any questions, even for me, I'm also, in my initial phases of learning what this is, how to implement it, the implications of something like this. So I'll just go through it. And if you have anything to add, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask any of the questions that you have. For now, I'll just start by going through how this whole story began. So last year, in November of 25th, Anthropic, which is a company in Silicon Valley, announced something called the Model Context Protocol. They said they're open sourcing a standard for connecting AI assistants to the system where data lives, including repositories, business tools, and things like that. As AI assistants gain mainstream adoption, the industry has invested heavily in model capabilities, achieving rapid advances. Yet, even the most sophisticated models are constrained by their isolation from data. Every new data source requires its own custom implementation, making truly connected systems difficult to scale. So this is the important part, that if right now you built your own AI assistant, if you aren't using some kind of standard that all the developers have agreed on, you're going to have to find and integrate those APIs yourself. So for example, if you wanted to have an agent that automatically does payments or sends out messages, you would have to actually, first of all, discover those APIs that do those functionalities yourself. And then you would also have to integrate and write those APIs. So you'll have to go to the Stripe API documentation, get the documentation for the REST APIs, and then integrate into your code. But that's not a scalable solution for developers, because we want an easy way to be able to call Stripe, to call Twilio, to call Uber, Airbnb, any other service that you need without having to do those API integrations. That's the biggest problem here. So MCP provides a universal open standard for connecting AI systems with data sources. It's an open standard that allows developers to build these connections. So, and they released a few things. There's the MCP protocol itself, which we're going to go through, that shows you what does it mean, from a technical perspective. What exactly do you have to do as a developer to integrate this MCP? Maybe this one I've tried myself. Maybe I'll try to show you guys if we have time, but then I'll also show you how do you get MCPs, how do you find other people's MCPs, and how does this whole system work? So let me now come back here to this paint tool, and I'm just gonna draw out what I think is happening. So the previous system, the old system was that as a developer, you build your static application like this app. And then let's say you had a service on this other side, service, or a functionality like that you usually need to integrate with an API. It could be, payments, messages, searching a specific form of data, anything you'd need to do an API call for. You would have to, for example, come here and do an integration. So you'd have to do manual integration, manual data. Let me just say, manual integration. So you have your app, you do a manual integration, and then you're able to access the service, and the service is able to return the information back to your app, then you show it to the user. But we have a new way now with MCP. So as much as we're calling this an app, right now MCP is, you can call it an app, but we're moving towards this idea of agents, so that you're not app or agent, primarily agent. An agent is basically, if your app needs to take an autonomous action, which many apps are beginning to start, you'll be able to use this, so, or agent. So you have your app or your agent. So let's say your app needs to do Stripe, okay? Manual API. Now, in this case, if your service is here, if the Stripe servers, if the Uber servers are here, service. The difference is with the MCP is that it provides here a server. So now this is the difference, a server. And then it also provides a simple protocol that tells you, so here's your agent. These servers are public. So unlike these APIs where you have to go to each website and find the documentation, these servers are publicly published online. So that whenever your agent needs a certain functionality, all it needs to ask is, do you have a certain functionality that I need? Can you send SMSs? Can you, do you have memory? Can you connect me to this service? And then the server will autonomously discover that server. So it's not about integrating one-to-one. It's now about your agent finding a server that has the functionality, and then that server provides for you that service that you need. The service then returns information to the server, and then the server returns that information to the agent. This isn't exactly how it works, but I wanted to just show you the difference between the old system and the new system. The old system is manual. So you have to manually integrate APIs, and the new system involves autonomously discovering MCPs, services which have MCPs, and then linking to them directly, and essentially pulling out that information that you need. So I don't know whether that has captured, the idea, whether what you guys think. Do you have any so far? I don't know if anyone has anything to add there. Okay. So let me share this tab instead. So that's just a general idea. So let's say you wanted to get started. So you can use pre-built servers through the Cloud Desktop app. You can follow a quick startup guide, and then you can contribute to open resources. So first of all, let me show you, this is kind of how it looks. They have let me come here. So this is how it looks. They have a model context protocol GitHub page where you can basically see all the information that you need. Let me come here for client developers, share this tab. So here's where we are. If you want to build an MCP server yourself, it's actually extremely simple. So the specification, let me come here. Share this tab instead. Okay, so here's an example of what MCP is. So when we say the MCP specification, it's actually very simple. You basically wrap, you take your existing service. If you have an existing business, if you have an existing app, if right now you've ever built an app, if you've ever built an API or a service, it's very easy to convert that into its own MCP. And this is how that context works. So you essentially give it a context. Whenever you send an API call, you basically give it a context. So whenever you want to make an API call, you say, I want to give it a bunch of data. So this can be any custom kind of information that you want to give to your own service. And then you also give it a prompt. So whenever you're doing MCP, this is all you need to do. You need to have a context object, and then you also need to have a prompt. So for example, if my service did movies, this context would be a custom object that passes movie information. Like, for example, you want to, send a movie name, a movie link. You want to question or query the MCP about a specific service. So you pass a context, and then you also pass a prompt. And then what the MCP is supposed to do, let me, come here. Yeah. So as you can see, I've simplified it. So a minimal schema just to help you understand. If you have to set it up, you basically wrap your API in something like this. So context, and then your prompt. So, and then it's supposed to receive to send a response. So your service is prompted to send a response back to the API call that makes it. Here's an example of how you can do it in the most basic way. So all you have to do in your backend is basically set up a new endpoint called -MCP. And then in that MCP endpoint, all you have to do is process these two that I showed you. Whenever an API call is made, all you have to do is accept a context, and then you also have to accept a prompt, as you can see here. And then once you accept it, you process it using your own API. So it's a very simple standard where once you receive your context and the prompt on your own backend, you take that context and the prompt, you do your own, maybe it's a language translation MCP. So you're gonna take that text and that context and the prompt, you process it on your own MCP, and then you return a response. So that's all MCP does. You basically create your own endpoint on your own server, whatever business you have, that accepts a context, a prompt. It processes the prompt using its own thing. It could be anything, actually. It could be a restaurant. It could be a person. MCP isn't just limited to apps. You can be very creative with this idea. Anything that can take some context, it can take an instruction and then return a response, you can turn into an MCP. And then here's the special thing. So once the MCP has been published, the other thing you need to do is create a, let me show you here, is publish it so that it's discoverable. And here's the interesting part. So once you've created your endpoint, it does those tasks and capabilities. It knows what it's supposed to do. Now you're supposed to make it available so that other agents online are able to discover your service specifically. So you create an MCP file. So for example, if your service is mymovies.com, you say https mymovies.com, and then you create an MCP.json. So here you put in basically information about your MCP. What does it do? It translates. What is its version? This is the endpoint to that MCP that we created. And then here are the tasks that it can do. Here are the required context, and here's the response format. So you're telling any agent that finds your MCP, this is what I do. Here are my tasks, and here's, if you're sending a request to me, here's what you do, and then here's what you should expect back if you send an information to this MCP. So that if I'm building, for example, an app, and then I need a translation functionality, instead of integrating an API, my agent will automatically go out, discover this translation MCP, and it will know immediately what tasks it can do, whether it's relevant to me, and then it will also be able to know what it can send and receive to that MCP automatically without me having to do any specific API call. So this is the powerful idea that you create this simple integration into your own service, you make it public, and then other people are able to see it. So the other thing is the other thing, and the other reason I like this MCP format, let me come here and see whether I can find the specifications specifically so that I show you. Share this tab instead. So here's the general specification. I'm looking for the schema itself. Base protocol, architecture, YMCP, tools. Okay, so that one I'll find. But the point was that I wanted to show you that apart from setting up these, let me come back here. Apart from setting up these, the response and the feedback, the other thing that you can do is also set up monetization. So once you set up your MCP, it's not just that you're making this service available to people online for free. The important thing is this is a new form of doing business. Because in this translation MCP that you have, it's also possible for you to determine the rate limits, like how often can people access. And if someone wanted to use your MCP, let's say you have a unique MCP that no one else has, you can now charge for it. You can say that every time someone wants to use my service, I'm going to, integrate pricing so that you get charged cents, a bit of cash every time you use this. So maybe you come to my service here, language.com. Then you register online. You get your API key or whatever, or you put your credit card, and then every time you're using this translation MCP, someone is charging you in the back. So this is valuable because it's actually a new form of doing business. Because before, as you can imagine, you have to create your application itself, and that was the valuable part, because you have to come here, you do the UI, you set up your stuff. But now all you have to do is set up a valuable MCP. And once you publish that MCP, other agents will be able to find that MCP and use it. And you essentially monetize that service without having to build a UI. And this is actually the future of where software is going. People are not going to be building individual applications. You're going to want to build an MCP that someone is able to access automatically, And if it's a good MCP, the agents will come back and continue using. So once you've published your model, it's going to appear in something like this. So here, so how do you make your model available online? So you can just publish it on GitHub actually with model context protocol. And it's like a Play Store a bit where you can publish different applications. Before you have to go through Apple, you have to do all of that business. But right now, there's a few resources you can use. So for example, here, this is the model context protocol /servers. And here you'll basically see all the details that you need in order to be able to connect to many, many different MCPs that are available. I was giving the language example, but now let me take you through some of the things you can find with MCPs. And all of these are available in order for you to, your agents, they can just use these autonomously without you having to do any integrations. So you can do things like AWS, you can do Git, you can do GitHub, GitLab, Google Drive. You can have memory basically with your agent, time and time zones. And then there's many, many third-party servers. So look at the list of many, all companies are jumping on this MCP format. Even last week at Google I/O, Google announced that Gemini and all of its stuff will be MCP compatible. Even OpenAI is looking into integrating MCP into its own products. Although it was created by Anthropic, it's become such a useful and valuable service. So I'm just showing you that there's a very long list of, very, very useful services that your agent or your service can now discover if you're integrating MCP into your applications. Everything from databases, LLMs, AI tools, as you can see here, CRMs. Let me just keep going through this list. You can have OpenAI APIs. So you can actually have an MCP that just connects to OpenAI on your behalf without having to do any integration. All of these, basically, it's a very long list. And this is just one. So once you do your what do you call it? Your service, you've created your service basically. So you basically now create your MCP file and then you publish it to GitHub. And that's one way that you publish. You just publish it to GitHub and it's going to be discovered. That's one way. But you can also come to another service like this one. And then you come here and submit. So this is there's many websites actually. Let me show you what happens when you go online and you search here MCP servers. So this is what happens when you're on Google. Then you search MCP servers. So you can see here, there's one here on GitHub, there's one here. People are just setting up different protocols, different servers, places, stores basically, where you can find different MCPs. So as you can see, you can come here, different MCPs, sequential thinking, Puppeteer, some are official, some are third party. You can use Figma. There's even MCPs for Blender, things like that, Brave, Notion, all of them. Google Maps has an MCP. And then the other thing, you've created your MCP, you can come here to MCP server directory and then click submit. And then as you can see, it asks you for your GitHub repository where you put your MCP. You remember there's a file you're supposed to create, the manifest that I showed you. It's gonna go through all of that so that if another agent needs your MCP, it's just gonna be able to be found here, and then it's gonna join this list. But I'm sure there's gonna be a better way than I think this is a middle ground, having to publish this on your own on a random server online. So far that's the process of MCP. I can go a bit deeper into the code now. We can do an example, but I just wanted to ask to see whether you guys have questions from your own perspective. Have you guys done any implementations yourself? I know Vincent, you did the cloud desktop. But have you guys had any experience with this? Do you have any questions? Do you see if it's going to be relevant to you? Any comments or feedback? What do you guys think? So let me start with Eric. Any thoughts or feelings?
Forgive me for you're going to hear some kids. The kids are watching something. So sorry, but no problem. MCPs are really good. I think I'm getting to know them for now and also implement. So that's the whole idea. But I also like this whole thing about publishing. So I got you guys. I entered, I joined the meeting a bit late, so I didn't get part of what was there before. But I think I'm going to get it as we go. So anyway, but I like MCPs, and also I think something that I'm working on is also inclusive of agent-to-agent protocol. So I don't know if you guys are going to talk about it today, but yeah, just briefly, because the meeting was supposed to be about MCP servers.
Yeah, that was good. Agent to agent. Now that you brought it up, let's go through that as well. So this is something that Google has released as well. So Google also saw that once we start building agents, we're also going to need a cool way, a nice way to basically have these agents communicate, and it's an alternative basically to supplement MCP. So even for me, I have not played around with this specifically, but as you can see, they start by prioritizing MCP. But let's see the difference now. Let's learn for ourselves together. So agent to agent is an open standard designed to enable seamless communication. Let me see. Yeah. Between agents. In a world where different agents are built by different vendors, we need a common language, breaking down silos and fostering interoperability. So let's see. Other agent is there, then Google agent is able to do this. Okay, why A to A matters? It has interoperability. You can do complex workflows with it, and then it's secure. So let's see, A2A and MCP complementary protocol. So this is what I was also wondering. How are they working together? So let's see here. You have an agent. It's here. It has local agents doing stuff internally. It connects to an external AI API and an agent development kit. And then it contacts MCP and does those applications that we talked about. Yeah, so as you can see, it reaches out, finds MCPs, and then connects. So that's what we had. This is one agent that has a stack connecting with the MCP. But then it uses the agent-to-agent protocol, okay, to connect to another agent. Interesting. That is from a different organization that does the same thing. So it kind of complements MCP, meaning that if you've already integrated MCP into your agent, what this one lets you do is connect to another agent. But I'm also wondering, can you not use MCP for this? Like, can this agent not just publish its own MCP server? But that's okay. Let's just read some more. So MCP connects tools, APIs, and resources. Think of it as a way for agents to access their capabilities. That's good. We've gone through that. Agent to agent facilitates dynamic, multimodal communication between different agents as peers. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's now the difference. It's nice for me and for us to learn. But now it will be curious. Like we can even do some code examples, but I'll do those tests by myself. But this is interesting to know that one is for accessing the capabilities, and this one is for agents themselves to speak in between each other. That's one. Now that we've gone through that and learned, let me go to Vincent. I don't know whether you have any feedback, questions, anything interesting that maybe you even want to go through again, or that has caught your eye.
Maybe my question would be, what's the difference between MCP and RAG, the retrieval augmented some? Yeah.
Very interesting. So RAG, RAG flow image. Let me show you guys here what retrieval augmented generation is. Let me open in a new tab. So here. Okay. So retrieval augmented generation is basically a way where if you have an AI, I will open image.
Okay, I think we're not seeing the screen, you're alone. Oh.
So yeah, I was looking for it. So yeah, so here's what retrieval augmented generation is, and we'll see the difference between this and what we're talking about when it comes to MCP or even agent to agent. So let's say as a user, you want to interact with your AI, you send your prompt, okay? Then the prompt, let's say there's a few ways you might ask a prompt. Sometimes that information is contained in the LLM itself, like the LLM has been trained on this information before. So it's easy, like if you ask it a historical question, who was the president at a certain time, it will just fetch that information. But let's say that it needs information that is not available in the training or even online, or or it even needs some information that's online, or it even needs information that is in your own personal memories, or even in your local environment on your laptop. So retrieval augmented generation is basically you are able to either retrieve those documents directly or store them in a vector format, in an easily retrievable format, so that when this prompt is done, what happens is it actually searches for that information in a semantic way, because usually it's stored in a vector database, which means that it's stored in a way where you can retrieve that information by searching for it using natural language. So you combine that semantic search so that it shows you what's similar, and then it retrieves those documents before it actually sends that information to ChatGPT. So for example, if you're asking it a question and then it needs to reference your own memories, it will take those memories first before it takes that prompt. For example, what did I do yesterday? It will take that prompt, what did I do yesterday? It will also take the information that it retrieved. It was able to retrieve from your memory, and then it adds it there so that it said, what did I do yesterday? Then it says memory, the user did this. And then it sends this whole context and information to the LLM, to OpenAI API. And then the API is able to generate a full response that comes back to the user. So it's possible to do it directly just using the LLM, but if you want extra information, use this retrieval augmented generation. That's what we mean. So the difference between RAG and something like an MCP is, I guess, here at the service, here at the LLM itself, if you wanted to connect to another service, so let's say you added an extra, I don't know whether it's possible for me to copy. I don't know whether it's possible for me to file. No. Yeah, so here we are. Let me share this. Let's see. Okay. Let me do this. Yeah. So let's talk about the difference. So I think the difference would be, let's say now this LLM, let's say you've said, make payment for me, or buy something for me from Amazon. Let's say that's our thing. Buy me a cat food from Amazon. So you send your prompt, buy me cat food from Amazon. Now you're not just asking about information, you're asking it to take action as an agent in the real world. So it's gonna come here and use RAG. This is where retrieval augmented generation. So it's gonna come here and then it's gonna say, okay, what cat food does the user like? So that I don't have to ask him. Let me check the memories because they're stored in a vector format. So it's gonna use that cat food. It does a semantic search. It finds the closest information to deal with cat food that you have in your memories. Then it takes those relevant documents. It adds it here. So it says, buy me something, buy me cat food from Amazon. And then the contextual information that was drawn from your documents, from your local files, or even online, which is like, what is the best cat food to buy right now? It is added here. So that it says, buy me cat food, and then it says the user prefers, cat food from this brand, and this is the type of cat. So the LLM comes without MCP. The LLM would just generate a response to say, I have bought a cat, or I cannot buy a cat, or I can't take any action. But with MCP, we know that there's a service here called, let's say, the Amazon MCP. Amazon MCP. So the LLM is going to come here, first of all, and search for the servers. So as we saw, there's many public servers that have advertised. They've advertised what? They've advertised what they're called. They've advertised their functionalities. They've advertised, what you send and what you're supposed to receive. So the LLM uses MCP to basically find appropriate servers that provide the functionality that it needs. What functionality does it need? It needs the ability to buy stuff on Amazon, right? So it's gonna then find the Amazon MCP. The Amazon MCP will say, fine, send me this, send me that, send me the other thing, and then I'm gonna send you back, did I buy the information or not? And then it comes here, and then let's say, I don't know whether, is it the eraser? This one? Yeah, that works perfect. So imagine now, with MCP, the process becomes more like this. So that the Amazon MCP, let me grab this as well, sorry. it doesn't send it back like this. It sends it back like this. So the Amazon MCP sends it to the LLM, and the LLM generates a response saying a few things. We have our prompt. You wanted to buy and something from Amazon. Here's the kind of thing you wanted to buy based on what I know about you and based on what I was able to find online. We talked to an MCP, and then this is the response that is generated. So it combines a third thing plus response from the MCP. And then finally, it's generated. It said now the LLM is able to format the full thing and give it back to you as a UI, which says, oh yes, you wanted to buy, we've bought, and this is what happened. This is what Amazon gave us. So before, this LLM would have had to do a manual. Without this whole system, how do you, okay, without that, let me change color here. Without this whole system, the LLM would have had to do a more manual API integration. This is the alternative. API. And then based on that API, it's more manual basically. This is basically you do manual docs, and then afterwards it returns that response to the MCP, sorry, to the LLM, and then so it's the same thing. But I hope, even for me, I'm learning, but I think this is a good explanation of how they're connected together. And then now let's add agents to agent. Now that you have this whole system here for this one, maybe there's someone else who has another agent, and it can maybe connect at this point. Maybe this is where agent to agent would be, where it talks to another agent and augments the response again. I don't know, but does that make sense? What do you think, Vincent?
I think it makes a lot of sense. My other question was, like, these MCP like servers, and are they making what like OpenAI created first, the taking control of your screen thing redundant? Because the last time you showed us, they had a feature where you could tell it go to Amazon and buy meats, those cat food and stuff. So it would take control of your screen, go to Google, search for, like a normal person would do. But through MCP servers, I think the whole thing is on the back end. So, like, is it making the operator redundant, or what do you think?
Yes, extremely good question. I think in the long term, I think yes, I think more and more things are going to be done, because ideally you want your agents to work as quickly as possible. So if Amazon creates a way for you to do that programmatically using an API call or using an MCP, then I think most users will prefer to do that. It's just that maybe many people are not technical, and at the same time, there are some things which are still much more difficult, like there's still no APIs for. So these computer use models kind of provide for us those functionalities. Let me show you another one here, one that I'm using. This one is the one that I use. I think for now it's completely free because I'm not being charged. But there's some things that you can still do with computer use that are even more powerful than what they both have their benefits. So, for example, with this computer use, something that you can do here that you can't do with an API, you can ask this computer use to, for example, do some research. Then it maybe edits a video using a specific software, and then it can publish that on YouTube. I know you can also do some of that programmatically, like even now with things like Google VO, not VO3, you're able to generate an entire video. So I agree with you. It's like more and more things that you can do with computer use are going to slowly be done by APIs, so that as humans, we don't even need to use screens or computers anymore. I think that's where it's going, but that's a very good observation that you've made. I think we're on that trend where more things are just going to be done automatically on our behalf.
So is this Vercept like open for also Windows people, or it's just Mac?
Let's see. I think this is maybe because I have a Mac. So if you try it on yours, you just visit vercept.com, and then you'll be able to see and download. But this is extremely powerful. I don't know what to say, but this software just shocks me that it exists. And it's just here for people to download, because it does things on your computer. I don't know if I can show you, but it just does actions on your computer in a crazy way. Maybe I'll show you a demo, but yeah, it's crazy. So you can try it out. It's available, and it's very useful. It can do everything. It can upload videos for you. It can do editing. It can do file search. It can change your application settings. Yeah, very interesting. So yeah, let's see, Brooke, welcome. What do you think? Any comments or questions about how any of this works or anything else related?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No, this is fascinating stuff. I think I don't have a technical background, so um, it's still so fascinating that a lot of this seems so within reach, even for someone like me. Um, and I'm in this constant phase of, you know, like FOMO, where there's always something new. You know, I was just looking into the Vercept thing right now, and it's mind blowing, as you said. Yeah, and I think um, I feel like there's nothing as great as like building things and testing them out and using real use cases. So yeah, I think it would be great to like see something live next time around, to see this in action. I mean, conceptually, it looks exciting. Um, but yeah, it would be great to see something being tested out or built live, to kind of go through that mental process of like what are the steps that needed to kind of get something in action. So that's my only feedback here.
Yes. First of all, this it's very good that we're able to have this conversation because it's not about being technical or non-technical. This information has become crucial to everyone basically, and it's about making it accessible so that even if you don't have a technical background, it's possible to just attend one of these things and even have discussions with us so that we are all learning together. Even the things I'm showing you today are things I'm also learning about. I'm sure all of us are just figuring out what this new tech is, and that's kind of the attitude that we're going with. So yeah, you're very much in good company.
Good to hear. Very good to
Yeah.
hear.
Okay. And also about the practical aspects, yes, don't worry about that. I'm also thinking about ways you can involve more people because it's very easy nowadays to do all of this stuff. So we'll be making some announcements so that even if you're not technical, you can start getting involved. Because nowadays, you just tell an AI, you give it a single prompt, and you've built an entire app. And that's kind of what we want to encourage.
Yeah, I mean it's it's obviously vibe coding is the new thing, but it's still in that phase of there is a lot of hype around it, but there's also a lot of kind of realistic benefits to it. But I think there's still a gap when it comes to vibe coding. Um, I feel like developers, people who are technical or who have some exposure, can make the most out of it. But there's still a layer between them and the people who are like, oh, vibe coding, and they jump in and then they build something and they're like, oh, it does absolutely. So, but yes, I think that gap is getting closer and closer and closer with each iteration of these models being built. So
So that's actually a very interesting observation. Welcome, Felix. So that's actually a very interesting observation because the last demo I had here as we close up was I wanted to actually show us how to build this entire system. And I'll show you, for example, how you can do it using that vibe coding method. So we'll do a quick example here so that I show you very quickly, a stack you can use, very simple, so that we see it for ourselves and you see how little effort you need to put in basically and how easy it
wow,
is.
okay, cool.
Yeah, so without further ado, let me show you another AI tool. So I'm always trying to figure out what are new AI tools. One that I really like nowadays for coding. Okay, I use different ones. I use Casa, I use Windsurf, but Google has released something called Firebase Studio, which is basically the same thing, only that it happens online on a website. So you can imagine how powerful that is, meaning you don't need to download anything. You can just open a tab and create an app from scratch. So let me show you how Firebase Studio works. First of all, I'm going to create something generic and general, just very quickly. And then afterwards, I will create an MCP implementation so you see for yourself how it works. So I'm just going to crowdsource the app idea. We're going to build an app together. If you are able to paste in the chat, just a random app idea, and then that's what we're going to use. So if anyone can type in the chat any app that you think would be interesting, just paste it and then we'll create it. Anything you've wanted to make. So anyone? Yes, let's see. An app like Luma. Are we talking about Luma Labs? Does it show you AI? Okay. So I'm gonna go with Brooke's idea because I just feel it was more specific than Vincent's. But Vincent, you can explain later. So an app to organize all your bookmarks from across multiple social media suites. So that's good. Let's go with that. So I'm just gonna paste that here. So this is called Firebase Studio. You just come and you click. That's all you have to do. So you just sign in with your Google account and you click. And then it basically does the entire process on its own, meaning that it begins the process of planning what this app can be, and then it starts generating the plan. So as you can see now, it's even given it a name, social mark, account linking. These are the features. Allow users to connect accounts, unified bookmark feed, bookmark management, layout, smart tagging. Okay. So I can just say AI prototype this app. I'll sell it. Do not use any paid AI services for now. Because it can actually cut into your cost. I've connected this to my Google stuff. So if you're not careful, it can eat into your stuff. And then come here. It creates the plan again. As you can see, I've reviewed. And then I say, prototype this app. And then it basically starts writing the code, like literally. Like this is work that would have taken a developer weeks and weeks, or at least days to start thinking about, you start planning, things like that. This one is already connected to your Gemini API key, meaning it can start creating the keys, it can start doing this, it can start doing that. But we'll come back to this. So in the meantime, as it's doing that, I just wanted to show you that to blow your minds, because we've reached this point where you just type a word and an app is created. But let's go back. And let's say we wanted to create an app. Okay. So let's go back here. And let's say we wanted to, so let's say you're not a developer at all and you don't know anything about MCPs. Please search up the MCP protocol. Or let me show you another tool that I use, by the way. Oh, not that one, this one. Oh, close. Load. Okay. So okay, so let's create an MCP server that helps with organizing bookmarks from across social media suites. Make it easy to use, and it should be called social.
It was supposed to be social media sites. Just a heads up. That's a typo.
Social media sites. Yeah. So it's such as, let me show you here. This is what it's making. It's using consistent. Let me show you here. So allow users to connect accounts from multiple social media platforms, display all the bookmarks in a single unified feed, allow users to categorize, and offer different layout options. This is what it's created with Social Mark. Right now, it's just coding. So in the meantime, we're going to create an MCP for your service, for Social Mark. Let me put it here. Yeah, so search the docs. So I was essentially just narrating. It was recording what I was saying, and I've just posted it here. Just random thoughts about the things we've just been talking about. What I've done is I've asked it to basically touch. Okay, let me come back here. Sorry. What I've asked it to do is basically to search online, use MCP protocol, and create an MCP for us. So I just gave it the idea that we had, and I said, please create an MCP. And then I say, do a technical implementation on a plan in detail. with docs and code for the agent. And then I'll switch here to O3 coding mini high, and then I'll send it here. So it gives us a much more technical detail. So here, I don't even need to understand what's going on.
You chose O4, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I chose this one, O4 mini high, so that because it's great at coding and visual reasoning. Here, we want to now do a bit more something more technical. So that's why I selected that one. So let's see. It's created our MCP. I'm just going to wait for that. In the meantime, let's check where social mark is. So check this out. It's done, basically. Oh, what just happened? Let me refresh the page. So, okay, that one is it's loading. Fine, let's come back here. As you can see, our MCP system has been set up. Here it is. We have the registry. We have our YAML. We have our MCP endpoint, connect platform, things like that. So I'll just copy this, come here. Here's what we have on social mark. So as you can see, it appears that your app needs a Gemini key. Okay, I can auto-generate and connect. Let me just do that. But yeah, that's just one thing. Let me now switch to a new tab, duplicate, go to Firebase Studio. So we create this MCP quickly, and you see how easy it is without needing to be technical. So I've hit the limit. Let me remove this one, delete. And then I can come here, basically paste in what ChatGPT gave me about my MCP, and then I say prototype this with AI, pretty much. I click on that button. In the meantime, this one, I saw a nice UI for 1 second, but as you can see, sometimes it's gonna have issues, and then it's gonna have to fix those bugs. But the point is, I saw a nice UI for 1 second, but it can continuously continue to fix the issues without you having to do it yourself. So if it finds an issue, you just have to continue, basically, until you have what you need. Yeah, so there we are. Now let's come here, share this tab instead. So as you can see, it now prototypes basically everything that we wanted. In terms of the API that we needed, you do the same exact thing, and then it generates it. And for you as a human, your job is basically to test and to say, is this thing achieving the outcome that I wanted? Like, you don't need to care about the code. You just say, fine, these are the things I wanted to put in. I wanted to visit a social media network and be able to have a bookmark. Does it achieve that? It doesn't. Let me tell it. You don't work. And then it's gonna continue having the conversation with you and fix it and fix it. So you can do this process with Casa. You can do it with other tools like Windsurf, but you can also use Firebase Studio to create your MCP. I know we haven't done exact MCP examples, like we could have gone deeper into the API calls and things like that. But I just wanted to show you that it's easy to vibe code some of these things, and that this technology is now accessible. So yeah, Brooke, what do you think? Is this interesting to you? Do you think this is valuable?
No, this is mind blowing. I mean, it's this is an idea I've had for a while. So it's exciting to kind of, it's in the back of my mind for way too long, and to see how I feel like I'm going to be testing this out today, just to see how far something like this can actually work. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and you should be aware, this is something I'm also using for my professional work. I know there's limitations and it's in beta, but it's accessible to both of us equally, and we can both use it to its maximum limit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know, Felix, you joined a bit later, but if you have any comments or questions that you can ask, we were talking about MCP, how you connect agents to different actions and capabilities. Do you have anything you want to say as we wrap up? Felix?
I had a question.
Yes,
so the thing is, I've been using Firebase Studio too, but the one thing I noticed is that, so two things I noticed. So any question you give it, that is probably made as like a git commit. But also when you change a certain thing, when you have a very big implementation, so it basically almost changes most of the code. So at some point it will fail, as you say, you can fix the problems and all that. And my question is this. With when you're with the whole stack, when you have like one AI agent and you connected it to an MCP, so and all the RAG that it's doing and everything else. So basically, can one AI agent, can it learn from an extra AI agent connected to it through A to A, that is agent to agent protocol? Can it learn whatever the other agent has learned through the RAG implementation or the RAG process?
Yes, and that's a very powerful idea. The idea that you can now start zooming out and creating more abstract systems out of this. So, for example, if you wrap all this into one agent, you can use it where, as you see in Google, can connect you to another whole system that does this whole thing on its own, but then it has learned. But that's actually a thing I've been researching and thinking about myself. And what I think is likely to happen, and is that there's going to be a memory MCP memory MCP that comes by default, so that all the agents who connect to this single MCP will share all the data amongst each other in a secure and permissionful way, so that whenever you create an agent, it will already know a lot about the user based on what all the agents can learn together, basically. So I think you're onto something there. You can either build that system yourself, do some research on it, or even look for other, there's many MCPs already that deal with memory, but it's still the Wild West for us. We can still do a lot.
Okay.
Okay, Felix, I saw your comment. Thank you. Okay, so this was an incredible meetup, I think, for us to learn about this. I think this will be much more, you'll hear much more about MCP going forward, I think. I think it's very valuable. I don't know, Vincent, if you had something to say.
Okay, mine is not about MCP particularly. There's a problem I had at work, so like I was asking if maybe you had a solution for it. So I was trying to fix a very like long code someone else had written. So like reading through it, so it's a lot of work. And now, do you have any suggestions? Because when I try to paste it in things like ChatGPT, I don't get any response, or because of the context window and things of this sort. So what do you suggest that I do? Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I have some suggestions for you. So first of all, if you have a tool like the most basic one, if you have a tool like Windsor for Casa or even Firebase Studio, and if it's possible to actually load Firebase Studio inside like here when you're here in Firebase. Let me share this tab. So this is one format, but you can also just import a file, your own GitHub repo. So you can come here, and this is so valuable, and this is what I do. So you come here, import repo, it's gonna connect to your GitHub, okay? Then you can try. The reason why I like Firebase Studio, by the way, which is very important for me to mention, is the cost. So the cool thing about Firebase Studio is unlike Casa or Windsurf, which charge you, first you have to subscribe the monthly fee, and then they're gonna charge you, extra fees on top. But the reason why I like this one is because all you have to do is add your Gemini API key. So you're being charged basically on the API requests as a developer and not like a customer, which is very valuable. So that means when you upload here, it's much cheaper than any other platform, which is what I like. So once you upload your repo, your big repo, you'll be able to yeah, Brooke, I'm coming to you. You'll be able to just ask the ChatGPT. Let me actually just show you practically. That's one. Okay, as it's loading. But then let me show you another thing that will be very valuable to you, which is called the Codex CLI. So it's an open source tool. If I can find it here on GitHub. Yeah, very valuable. It's an open source tool. You just come and install it basically on your terminal. So you open your terminal right now. You open that terminal. You install OpenAI Codex CLI, and this will basically code for you inside your own code base. So that code base that's long and ChatGPT isn't giving you stuff. You'll be able to essentially use this to code for you. You just add your OpenAI API key, and then it's gonna go through everything on your behalf. You'll ask it, go through this entire code base and explain to me, and then it's going to do all of that for you. So you can try Codebase CLI, and you can also try Firebase Studio. Brooke, what do you have to say?
I was going to ask, yeah, the costing is key. I wanted to know in terms of your experience, like Cursor, Windsurf. I think there's another one called Replete. Have you seen kind of just like, they say one LLM does better in such thing and this LLM does better in other situations? Do you have experience as to what situation maybe one of these tools operates better? Like obviously disregarding, cost is a key factor, but I'm just curious in terms of usability, or it could be just other features within these tools.
Yeah, so very valuable question there. How do you decide on the stack? New box. So how do you decide on the stack? And the most important thing for me is versatility. So because when you're creating code and you're creating a product, you're creating this for a customer. Let me come here and let me share this. You're creating a product for a customer and for a market. And the ideal situation is that you are able to access the entire market with the least amount of effort. So that's how I think about the tools that I use. And right now, if you want to access, a customer, you want them to pay you for the software. There's a few platforms that you have to consider. There's Apple, there's Google, Android, and then there's web, and then there's desktop. Okay, you get it. I know that it doesn't make any sense here, and then there's also different tools. You're talking about Casa, Windsurf, Replit, and all of that stuff. So Replit is kind of here on this side, where it's very good at web stuff, but if you wanted to go to the App Store and the Play Store, you can't, because it's more web-based, but you're limited basically there. Cursor and Windsurf both give you all the full flexibility, which is what I like. So that's what I recommend, that you do you choose a platform where you can write your code and then publish it anywhere. So you're not limited. You can publish on Android, iOS, web, and Apple. And then there's also now Firebase Studio. These all come together basically in Firebase Studio. So you have the tools and you have where you want your customer to pay you the money. So what you do is you figure out, what's the best platform. You don't use Replit because it's mostly for web. You can use Casa and Windsurf because it gives you the raw access to all the code. And then what platform do you use to code? What language do you use? Okay, so if you use Python only, you won't be able to. You can use it'll mostly be web. I'm sure there's some mobile stuff you can do with Python, but it's not native. So what I use for building, what glue do you use here to connect all these is called Flutter. So my recommendation is you're here as the developer or the person with the dream. Developer, you want to make money and access the market. You use something like Google Studio or even Casa and Windsurf to quickly, as you can see, you just paste in code from ChatGPT and it'll do everything for you. Preferably, you want to use the Flutter platform if you want to develop a UI, because at the end of that process, you'll have something that can go on Android, it can publish to the App Store, you can publish to the web, and you can go on desktop. So that's kind of how I see how do you decide which tools you're going to use. So for me, I use, these are AI tools. I use Flutter and I publish to all the platforms simultaneously.
Flutter is the one built by Google, is it?
Yes. Let me show you here. Yes, Flutter is built by Google, and it's a very, very powerful system for building applications. So build for any screen. It basically transforms your development process. Before Flutter, you had to have different teams. You have to have a web team, an Android team. Like you have to essentially be rewriting your app internally multiple times. But right now, if you're using Flutter, you write your app once, okay? And then you can write it so that it's adaptable to any screen using a single code base. So you only need to know one language for Flutter. It's very, very powerful. Yep. So yeah, those are some of the AI tools. There's many more, and even if you guys come across other tools, you can share with us in the group. I really appreciate you guys making time to attend this, and I hope this was useful. Does anyone have any last comments as we wrap up?
I only have a question, and it's probably a bit more technical, but the thing is, when you're using AI agents, there is this hallucination thing because it's the biggest problem that you have with AI agents and all the responses it can give you. So, how can you improve apart from reducing the temperature of the AI agent? How can you also reduce most of the hallucinated responses that it gives you in your own experience?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on let's say you're running a factual service. There's different ways. Let me show you here on the OpenAI docs. Some of the tools you have available. So there are things like function calling. So this hallucination problem, I know it's a problem sometimes, but it's really, really been improved according to me, because they provide many different things. Like here, they have evals for you. For example, if you have a specific model and you want to keep improving its performance along with a specific data source, you can test it repeatedly and see how it performs. You can also do what I wanted to show you here called function calling. Your systems can call functions. So now instead of talking in natural language, it's possible to just talk to an API, so that instead of returning actual text, you can actually first of all return actual API parameters and data. So you return hardcode data before you return the what the LLM does. So the LLM is going to take the response. It's going to take the response that you return in actual data like this. You will see two calls within the required action. So it's actually integrating with other programmatic systems and not just returning to you something that it made up. So this is what I mean, that it can search for files now. It can actually run code. So as you can see, instead of just returning a response, you can actually have it analyze the file. Some of the tools that you see inside ChatGPT are also available to us as developers, so that we can start using them to avoid these issues. And but it'll reduce over time, I think.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have just a follow up. I think that was a great question. I think just adding to it, not only hallucination, but I think performance is a key way to determine how well things are going. So be curious to see kind of different ways that evals are implemented. Obviously, this is for next time to kind of see it live, to see like what are ways that different tools provide different approaches and so on, and then how do you kind of implement it effectively? Because like I think building is great, and then there's the next step is kind of determining how well does it work and how do we improve it. So be curious to incorporate that into the next phase of the presentation or kind of the series that you're hoping to do.
Awesome. In short, it's a very good time to do much more than was possible before. In this 1 hour, we've created tons and tons of software that would have taken us otherwise tons of effort, team collaboration, investors. So everything has changed and not many people are aware. And this is now the best time for us to take advantage, to start building and learning as much as we can, because everything is about to change. So I really appreciate that you've joined. We'll continue having more, and I'll make more announcements. And I'll see you guys at the next one. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you too for the presentation. I think I'll also be the one. I'll be one of the people to follow on this thing. Like mostly MCP and A2A, and sources of where to get NCPs for different things and all that.
So thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ian. I think appreciate you taking the time to prepare this and going through this entire thing. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sending you a quick message over WhatsApp so I can follow up after.
Okay.
Great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you.
Okay.